All right, look, y'all, we have got to stop getting ourselves worked up into an absolute and embarrassing tizzy over these way too early post-spring ridiculous don't even count or matter top 25 rankings that people are putting out. Now, I understand that top 25 rankings are going to be a topic of discussion anytime they are put out by anybody that puts them out. I get that. But the amount of people that I'm seeing actually get angry at people's top 25 is starting to really get ridiculous. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, thank y'all for all the birthday wishes yesterday. I had a great birthday. It's continuing today. My dad took me out to lunch today. Got a steak dinner tonight. So thank you to everybody who took time out of their day to wish Uncle Lou a happy birthday. I really, really appreciate it. I've got 4 top 25s up on the screen. Now, one is mine. I picked it for obvious reasons. The other 3 that I picked are the ones that I have seen discussed and talked about the most, okay? So if you look right here, okay, that's mine, Uncle Lou top 25. Right above that, that's Joel Klatt's top 25. On the other side of Joel Klatt there is ESPN's, which is actually done by Mark Schlabach. So Mark Schlabach's post-spring top 25, and below Mark Schlabach and next to Uncle Lou is Josh Pate's top 25. Now, some things here look similar, some look way off. We're going to talk about a few of these things in all of these rankings, but I want to start by getting back to the getting angry about people's top 25 rankings. I'm not sure when Josh Pate put this out. What's today? Today's Wednesday. I think he put this out Sunday. I watched his show the following day after a bunch of people tagged me on Twitter in his top 25. Some people were mad. Some people were laughing. Some people wanted my opinion on certain teams, where he had certain teams ranked or whatever. So anyway, I decided to go back and watch and hear what he said and talked about the different teams or whatever. And while I was rewatching his live show from Sunday night, you know, you can rewatch the live chat when you're rewatching a live show. I actually saw somebody in there, and this was a Georgia fan. I actually saw a Georgia fan in the live chat that was so mad about Josh Pate having Georgia ranked at number 11 that he felt the need to type multiple times in the live chat that he was unsubscribing from Josh Pate. He was no longer watching Josh Pate. Josh Pate has no idea what he's talking about. He's clueless. He's ridiculous, whatever. Now, again, it's perfectly okay to disagree with where any team is ranked. I'm using this Georgia one as an example. There's a dozen examples I could point to over the last week of people that I've seen online just completely losing their mind over where one of these people has their team ranked. And I don't understand it. You can disagree with where teams are ranked. I put a top 25 out 3 times in the offseason, every single week during the season. And there's not a soul on planet Earth probably who agrees 100% with my ranking at any time ever, nor do I expect them to. One of the reasons you put top 25s out is to generate discussion and debate. Don't be one of these people who is getting so mad at these top 25s that you're, oh my God, I can't watch this guy anymore because he has somebody ranked in a different spot than when I would rank them. It's complete. You're really making yourself look dumb. Again, please debate. Please feel free to point out where you think teams are ranked wrong and where they should be ranked, whether it's my ranking or anyone else's. Again, that's the point. That's why everyone puts these things out. But to get so mad like that is absolutely ridiculous, and I'm seeing more and more of it. But let's go through some of these rankings. Now, you're going to see some similarities here between the different rankings, and some things in each particular ranking are going to stand out. So we'll start with like the top 5. And this is another thing that is extremely interesting to me. Every single top 5 on here has Clemson and Penn State in it. If you start on the top left over there, which again is Mark Schlabach from ESPN's top 25, he's got Penn State at 1, Clemson at 2. Moving over to Joel Klatt, he has Penn State at 1, Clemson at 5. Bottom left, Josh Pate, Clemson at 1, Penn State at 3. My top 25 ranking, I've got Clemson at 3, Penn State at 4. Now, none of that means that Penn State or Clemson is finishing in the top 5. all that means is that the four of us all think Clemson and Penn State are somewhere in the top 5 heading into the season. How is it possible that the majority of the internet sees that and just loses their mind? I can assure you the four of us do not share a brain. We all view Clemson and Penn State as being pretty good teams. And I see a bunch of the same comments over and over. Oh, Clemson gets blown out every time they play a good team. James Franklin's the most overrated coach in here. Doesn't know what he's doing. He plays a good team, he'll lose. Listen, the reason, and I'm not going to speak for the other three, although I can make an assumption, but I can tell you for myself, and this is something we've talked about a lot this offseason. Look at a lot of these teams ranked in the top 5, even the top 10. Amongst all four of these rankings here. Very few of these teams have returning quarterbacks. Very few have returning high-level quarterbacks who played on the same team last year, right? We'll just use my ranking. We'll use my ranking right here as an example. I've got Texas and Ohio State at 1 and 2. Both have brand new quarterbacks. Then I've got Clemson and Penn State. They both have returning quarterbacks. Notre Dame, new quarterback. Oregon, new quarterback. Georgia, new quarterback. LSU, returning quarterback. Miami, new quarterback. Kansas State, returning quarterback. Half the top 10 in my ranking has brand new quarterbacks. Let's go up and look at Joel Klatt. He's got Penn State at 1, returning quarterback. Texas at 2, new. Ohio State at 3, new. Oregon at 4, new. Clemson at 5, returning. Notre Dame at 5, or Notre Dame at 6, new quarterback. LSU at 7, returning. Georgia at 8, new. Alabama at 9, new. Illinois at 10, returning. Same thing. Half the teams in his top 5 have brand new quarterbacks. It's not that far-fetched of an idea that Clemson and Penn State might be pretty good teams this year. First of all, Penn State, we'll start with Penn State. They return 2 of the best running backs in all of college football, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. They bring in who I think is the best defensive coordinator in all of football to replace a top 5 defensive coordinator in all of college football, Tom Allen. They bring in Jim Knowles to replace Tom Allen on a defense that's loaded. Now, they lose some obvious stars to the NFL, Abdul Carter, chief among them, but they recruit well on that side of the ball, and Penn State plays pretty good defense all the time. I know they lose to Ohio State, but go back and look at the scores. They're holding Ohio State under 20 most times. Penn State's problems have been on the offensive side of the ball, particularly when it comes to throwing the ball and very specifically throwing the ball to wide receivers. Well, I think they did pretty good in the portal this year when it comes to wide receivers. They got the kid from Syracuse at almost 1,000 yards last year. And Drew Aller, the returning quarterback at Penn State, is one of the best 3 or 4 returning quarterbacks in all of college football. I mean, you got Cade Klubnik, you've got Nussmeier at LSU, you've got Drew Aller at Penn State. What returning quarterbacks in your mind are better than that? Sellers at South Carolina? Well, South Carolina's receiving a bump in almost everybody's rankings too. Why? Same reason. Returning quarterback. You start with my ranking. I've got South Carolina at 12. Next door, Josh Pate. I see South Carolina ranked down there at 18. You go up top, Joel Klatt. Does he have South Carolina ranked? Yeah, all the way up at 11. What about Mark Schlabach over at ESPN? Yeah, he's got him at 10, 11, 12, 13. Talent-wise, overall, South Carolina doesn't have like a top 13 roster top to bottom, but they've got a returning high-level quarterback. The things that are really... The things that are sticking out the most to me in terms of what people are getting mad about is Clemson and Penn State being ranked in the top 5. I get it. I obviously get it. I've got them in my top 5 too. Do I think Clemson or Penn State are going to win a natty? No. They've got a chance. I mean, they've got a chance. I don't know that I would pick them as the one team. Yes, that's the team I think's winning the natty, but those teams have chances to win the natty. Let me ask you this. Would you be more surprised if Clemson and Penn State made the playoffs, or would you be more surprised if they missed the playoffs? I'd be way more surprised if they missed. Go back over the last 10 years and tell me how many of those years in the last 10 Clemson and Penn State would not have made a 12-team playoff. Maybe once or twice for Clemson, once or twice for Penn State. Maybe 8 out of 10 years. This is off the top of my head. I haven't gone back and looked at the overall records. But these are top 10, top 15 teams almost every single year. I don't understand people's outright anger at having Clemson and Penn State ranked in the top 5. I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm willing to bet that when the AP and the coaches poll come out, both of those teams will be in the top 5. 6, 7 at the worst, but I bet you they'll both be in the top 5. Again, That doesn't mean I'm not drawing a straight line from that to the season and saying that guarantees anything during the season. And you don't even have to agree that Clemson and or Penn State should be ranked in the top 5. But the idea that there are people getting mad that people have Clemson or Penn State ranked in the top 5, it blows my mind. There are way more arguments for Clemson and Penn State to be highly ranked than there are for them not to be highly ranked. I don't know. Somebody's getting in the playoffs from the ACC. Okay. And you can say, oh, they got an easy schedule. When they play my good, they look. Okay. So what? They're going to be 10-2, 11-1, win the ACC, be sitting there at 12-1 with an ACC championship and playing who in the first round? You don't know who they'll play in the first round. They might win the first round. They might win the second round. Penn State. When was the last time Penn State was not one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten? How long? Because that's all it takes to get into the playoff. So that sticks out to me. The number of comments I see on my top 25 ranking and the number of comments I see about these other 3 top 25 rankings and where they have Clemson and Penn State ranked. It's obvious to me why Clemson and Penn State are so highly ranked. But again, you're free to disagree. But some of the anger it's mind-boggling in general, but particularly about Clemson and Penn State. Now let's look at some of the obvious discrepancies that stand out amongst the different top 10s. And again, I'll start with mine. I've got Miami at 9 and Kansas State at 10. Those are the 2 that I received the most pushback on in terms of having ranked inside the top 10. Even the people who cried that I had Clemson and Penn State in the top 5, very few of them thought I should have had them out of the top 10. But I did get a lot of pushback on the Miami and the Kansas State one. And here's how I sort of view this here. My top 8 teams, how many of those teams do you think are making the playoffs out of Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Georgia, LSU? That's 8 teams. How many of those do you think are making the playoffs? 6 of the 8? 7 of the 8? All 8 of them? In other words, those 8 teams, to me, are a pretty good top 8. Now, the other rankings don't have that exact top 8, and we'll get to those in a second, and that's okay. But I think those teams, I think, have a better chance of making the playoffs than not. To me, there's a clear line once you get past that. And it's a couple of reasons of why that is. Number one, the ACC and the Big 12, there's a real possibility they only get one team in. We'll see. The ACC either could get more. I've got Miami behind Clemson in the ACC. You see, I got Louisville down there at 24. I've got SMU at 20. Georgia Tech at 16. I think one of those teams is getting in for sure, maybe 2. I think Miami is the best of the rest of the ACC. I think Clemson is the best team in the ACC. Again, doesn't mean they'll win it. It's just right now the way the rosters look, what we've seen so far through spring, transfer portal window heading into the summer. I think Clemson's the team to beat. In the ACC, they've got a returning quarterback. They always play really good defense. They've got some questions. They need some wide receivers to step up. They played a lot of true freshman wide receivers last year. They need one of them to maybe be a breakout star. They need a running back to replace Maffa. So they got questions like everybody else does. But to me, they're the favorite to win the ACC. And if I think 2 teams are going to get in, who would that second team be that could potentially finish in the top 10, 12, 13, something like that to get in as an at-large? I think Miami has the best shot out of Miami, Georgia Tech, SMU, and Louisville. But it could be any of those teams. So I decided to put Miami at 9. Kansas State at 10. The Big 12 is an impossibility. There's about 7 teams that could win the Big 12. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Kansas State, Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Arizona State, TCU. You see how many Big 12 teams I have ranked. my ranking is not a projection forward to the end of the season. So I don't know if 6 or 7 Big 12 teams will actually be ranked at the end of the season. My thoughts are that they probably won't. The reason so many Big 12 teams ended up in my top 25 is because one of them is going to ascend to the top and have a record to where they end up, ranked highly enough in the top 25 and win the Big 12 to get in. I like Avery Johnson, the quarterback at Kansas State. I like the coaching staff there. But I'm no more confident really in Kansas State winning the Big 12 and getting into the playoffs than I am Texas Tech, who I've got at 15, or even Iowa State, who I've got at 18. But it seems like there's going to be a Big 12 team that works their way up there. So I've got them at 10. Illinois at 11, I think could be similar to last year's Indiana, sort of that third or fourth Big 10 team that gets in with maybe a 10-2 record, maybe doesn't make the Big 10 championship game, but gets like that third spot. Like the coaching staff, quarterback returns, a lot of returning production, manageable schedule. Now, once you get past that, South Carolina, this is where there's a lot of differing opinions on South Carolina heading into the season. But you go over and take, like, just for example, right above me, let's look at Joel Klatt's top 25. He's got Illinois at 10. I've got Illinois at 11. Pretty close there. I've got South Carolina at 12. Does he even have South Carolina ranked? Yeah, he's got them at 11. So we're very close on those. He's got Michigan at 12. I've got Michigan at 13. He's got Florida at 13. I've got Florida. We're going to get to Florida and Oklahoma in a minute. He's got Florida at 13. I think that's too high. I don't have Florida ranked. He's got Utah at 21. I'm not buying Utah. I got to see what they do post Cam Rising. I know he's been hurt for a couple of years, but they've been disappointing while he wasn't the quarterback. So I got to see what they look like before I can have enough faith in them to rank them in the top 25. Although I love Whittingham and the coaching staff. Anyway, move over to Mark Slaybaugh's ranking. Does anything stand out in his top 10? He's got Alabama and BYU. Okay, our 8 teams, I believe, are the same. Mine and Slaybaugh's, if you look at Slaybaugh, who's on your top left, the ESPN ranking there, our top 8 teams are the same. The order is different. And then for 9 and 10, he's got Alabama and BYU, whereas I've got Miami. He's got Alabama and BYU. I have Miami and Kansas State. So he's got Kansas State as his sort of best of the mediocre in the Big 12. I've got Kansas State. I completely understand having BYU there. You can see I've got BYU at 17. But of course BYU can win the Big 12. And if they do, they're going to be closer to the top 10 than Kansas State will. So while I disagree, right, with where some people have BYU ranked, it makes sense. I don't get mad about it. It makes sense to me. Let's look at Josh Pate's ranking. He's got Clemson at 1. I don't have a problem with that. Now, I've got Clemson at 3. I had him at 2 in February. I'm very high on Clemson. Very high on Clemson. So he's got them at 1. I've got him at 3. No issue there. He's got Texas at 2. I've got Texas at 1. Okay. Penn State at 3. I've got him at 4. He's got Alabama at 4. I think that's too high for Alabama. 2 really bad losses last year. Brand new quarterback who we've not really seen do anything there in Ty Simpson. I don't know where Alabama's running game is coming from this year. I do think they're going to have maybe the best wide receiver room in the SEC, but there's nothing we've seen that shows us that Ty Simpson is going to be able to take advantage of the talent they have at wide receiver. They've got Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard is back. And I think the defense will be okay. They got a new offensive coordinator. So how long does it, does the offense click right away with a new OC and a new QB? We'll see. I think that's too high for Alabama. Does it make me mad? No. They're the first or second most talented roster in the country. No one should see that and get mad. Again, you can disagree. I disagree. I don't even have Alabama in my top 10. I've got them at 14. Is anybody watching right now going to be shocked if Alabama ends up in the playoffs? No. So I understand him having Pate having Bama at 4. He's got LSU at 5, a little higher than I have LSU. But again, a returning quarterback there with a lot of talent. Now they loaded up in the portal and it's got to work. But if it does work and the defense plays well enough. I think LSU is a contender to win the SEC, so that makes sense to me. And he's got Notre Dame right below that, and then Oregon and Ohio State. All of that makes sense to me. All of that makes sense. I don't agree with it, but I can see reasons and rationale for having those top 8 teams ranked where they do. This is where Josh Pate lost a lot of people, myself included, is the Florida at 9 and the Oklahoma at 10. Now, I've said this before about Josh Pate. I think he's probably the best at what he does in terms of stats and information. He has a great way of delivering stats and information. I love watching Josh Pate videos during the week, during the season on Tuesday and Thursday when he's talking about the upcoming games for the weekend. I don't care about his predictions for the game because those are his opinions. And I don't care about necessarily his Sunday show where he gives his opinion on the games that happened the day before. But when it comes to just learning stats, information, depth charts, returning production, recruiting rankings year over year, things like that, I think Josh Pate is one of the best on YouTube at that. His opinions aren't worth the words that he uses to express them. They're pointless. He has no opinions. I truly believe that. I don't think he ever expresses any of his true opinions. His goal is sort of to cast a wide net. And I'm not knocking that. It's a great business model. But there is no planet where Florida and Oklahoma should be in anyone's top 10 heading into 2025. Florida was 7-5 last year. It was the first year they've had a winning record in 3 years. Billy Napier has been an absolute disaster. He's lost 19 games in 3 years. As comparison, Kirby Smart has lost 19 games the entire time he's been the coach, or since 2017. He's just not any good. They've got a ridiculously hard schedule. He sort of went all in on Florida and Billy Napier a couple of years ago, and he's been pumping Florida and pushing Billy Napier for reasons that I can't figure out. And he just refuses to back off of it, so he's got Oklahoma there at 9. And it's a similar thing with Brent Venables. He thinks Brent Venables is going to work at Oklahoma. I don't. They were terrible last year. They bring John Mateer in, the quarterback from Washington State. And look, I get it. Cam Ward transferred from Washington State to Miami and put up video game numbers and was a Heisman contender. That doesn't mean that every Washington State guy that rolls around now is that. They had one of the worst offenses in the SEC last year. Their quarterback situation was a complete mess. They were riddled with injuries. They've recruited decent, but the results on the field have been terrible for Brent Venables at Oklahoma. And even if Oklahoma improves, even if Florida improves, neither one of those teams is finishing the season ranked anywhere near the top 10. And to have them in the top 10 heading into the season, which here's the thing about preseason rankings. Preseason rankings, particularly the teams that you choose to rank inside the top 10, I believe you're giving a lot of benefit of the doubt to, okay? I can point to a lot of teams in the top 10 and say they've got question marks here, or here, right? But they finished in the top 5 or the top 10 for 5-10 years in a row, so I'm pretty confident they're going to answer those questions and have a good year and finish with 10-plus wins and inside the top 10 because they do it every single year, right? Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame, those teams. Oklahoma and Florida, no. They have not built up, they've not built up that benefit of the doubt. It's complete insanity for him to have Florida and Oklahoma at 9 and 10. Does it make me mad? No, I think it's hilarious. The whole infatuation thing that he has with Florida and Billy Napier is hilarious. So I disagree with him there. Outside of that, he's got Georgia at 11. Let's talk about this for a second, because this is another one. I started the show by mentioning that I saw a Georgia fan get so mad at Josh Pate for having Georgia ranked 11 that he had to tell Josh Pate a bunch of times in the comment section that he was unsubscribing and never watching his trash channel ever again, which is ridiculous. If you're getting that angry over somebody's preseason ranking in May of a football team, you got issues. But there is a reason why the playoff committee is a committee and not one person. There's a reason why even the coaches poll is 134 different rankings averaged into one. Same thing with the AP. I don't know how many AP voters are there, 65, 85, whatever it is. And everybody does their own ranking, and that, those 85 rankings or whatever it is are averaged into one. There's a reason that it's not one person that ranks the teams. And the reason is you might get somebody like Josh Pate who puts Florida at 9 and Oklahoma at 10. So let's just take Georgia, and we're just going to do a quick exercise here on why you average multiple rankings to get a real ranking instead of just using one person's ranking. So let's take Georgia, all right? ESPN's got them at 4. Joel Klatt has them at 8. Josh Pate has them at 11. Uncle Lou has them at 7. Okay? So that's 4. Keep up with me here. That's 4 plus 8. That's 12. 12 plus 11. That's 23. 23 plus 7 is 30. So I added up all 4 of Georgia's rankings that you see on the screen, and the total number that we get to is 30. Are you South Carolina fans keeping up with me here? We're at 30. These are 4 different rankings. 30 divided by 4 is what? 7.5. 7.5. Georgia preseason rank is about 7.5. Not 11 where Josh Pate has them. Not 4 where Slayball has them. Georgia's average preseason rank is 7.5. 7, 8. I've got them at 7. Am I biased towards Georgia? If I'm biased towards Georgia by having them 8 and an average of rankings has them at 7.5, I'm actually behind the curve. Does Josh Pate hate Georgia? He's got them at 11. The average ranking is 7.5. Does that mean Josh Pate hates Georgia? No. It means he's a little lower on Georgia than the average person. That's it. That's all that means. It's no reason to get mad at Josh Pate for having Georgia at 11. No reason to call me a homer for having Georgia ranked at 7. And we can do that with any team you want here. We can do it. We'll do it with Clemson. Y'all hate Clemson. I can't believe Clemson's in the top 5. Clemson's got a number 2 ranking, a number 5 ranking, that's 7, a number 1 ranking, that's 8, and a number 3 ranking, that's 11. 11 divided by 4 is what? 2.75. The average Clemson rank here is 3, basically. So if you're one of these people who has spent the last 2 weeks calling people retarded for having Clemson in the top 5, their average ranking is about 3rd. It's not crazy to have Clemson in the top 5. I could do the same thing now with Penn State. They would wind up in the same place. Penn State's at 1, 1, 3, and 4. That's 9. 9 divided by 4 is a little bit over 2, 2.25. So their average ranking is about 2. Clemson's average ranking is about 3. You get the idea here. Okay? You get the idea. You look at the bottom of the rankings, and of course, the bottom of the rankings are going to differ a lot more across the board in general than the tops of people's rankings. And one of the reasons that is it's human nature, I think, that you pay more attention and put more thought and time into the teams that you think are going to be better. Your Georgias, your Penn States, your Clemsons, your Notre Dames, your Oregons, right? So you see a lot of the same teams kind of clumped within the top 10 in almost every year in every single ranking. You get down to the bottom, let's just look at like 20 through 25. I've got Tennessee, Ole Miss, Arizona State, Louisville, and TCU. You look above me at Joel Klatt, 20 to 25. He's got Ole Miss, Utah, Auburn, Iowa, Baylor, and Oklahoma. Totally different 20 to 25. But again, go back and look at our top 5, top 8. Very similar there, right? And you can do the same thing with the other rankings too. So anyway, I just thought it would be interesting. Obviously, there's dozens of rankings out. Almost everybody with a YouTube channel puts out a ranking this time of year. I picked these because the Mark Slayball ranking from ESPN, the Joel Klatt ranking from Fox Sports, and the Josh Pate ranking are sort of the 3 most popular sort of rankings that represent kind of every, you've got the ESPN, people that hate ESPN or pro SEC, blah, blah, blah. You got Joel Klatt, he works at Fox, the anti-ESPN. And then you've got Josh Pate representing kind of the YouTube side of things, although he works for CBS. And then you've got one idiot, me, Uncle Lou. I included my poll because it's mine. So if I'm guilty of any bias, there's the bias right there. I'm biased towards my own ranking, obviously. Anyway, just something to think about. Obviously, disagreement with people's rankings is why people put the rankings out. So by all means, continue to do that. I wouldn't have this team at 4. I'd have them at 6. I'd have this other team at 4 instead. That's why we put these rankings out. to get so mad you're unsubscribing or, you know, talking about somebody's mama or whatever. Look, there's Georgia fans that are yelling at me in the comment section because I've got Georgia at 7. You know? So, like, no one's going to agree. Even I'm a Georgia fan, and Georgia fans don't agree. I don't put the ranking out so that you will agree with it. But just keep that in mind when you see people put these rankings out. But, you know, I tell you what, here's what we'll do. Let me know down below, of these 4 rankings, which one do you agree with the most? And which one do you agree with the least? I would be curious to know that. And anything else you want to point out about individual team rankings in these 4 rankings, of course, feel free to let me know. But in particular, I want to know, which of these 4 rankings do you agree with the most? And which of these 4 rankings do you agree with the least? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good morning, and I'll talk to you soon.